Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Always, yet another Pottercast. Today we're talking about chapter 12, The Mirror of Erised.
Which is my favorite chapter in the whole book.
It's one of my favorites too. Probably my favorite. I can't be sure because I still haven't finished rereading it.
And the opening of this chapter is not about the Mirror of Erised at all. It is about...
It's about how amazing the Weasley twins are because they hit Voldemort in the face with snowballs.
Yes, this is true. But they don't know that I love that they're silently, unknowingly doing their bit for, justice.
I know. I know. So Christmas is coming. And just so everyone knows what we're talking about, it says the lake froze solid and the Weasley twins were punished for bewitching several snowballs so that they followed Quirrell around, bouncing off the back of his turban. I bet J.K. Rowling was just giggling to herself when she wrote that detail.
Yeah, she's loving it. She's having a great time.
Yeah.
And then they're just freezing cold in their classrooms just by the fact that they have magic, which,
Wizards are useless sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hagrid did say to Harry when he first asked what the Ministry of Magic was for, well, their main job is to keep it from the muggles if there's still witches and wizards around. But sometimes I feel like muggles would not care at all. Sometimes I definitely feel like muggles have their ish together way more than wizards.
Oh my gosh, so true. So true.
And you know who definitely needs to get his ish together? Draco Malfoy. With this such a sad attempt at mocking Harry. It says, I do feel so sorry, said Draco Malfoy, one potions class, for all those people who have to stay at Hogwarts for Christmas because they're not wanted at home. Such weak sauce.
Yeah.
Can't deal with it.
Yeah, I don't vibe on it. And to be honest, I also don't vibe on the fact that, it's a school and I know it's potions, but they really should be telling him off for making fun of the fact that Harry's parents are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a wound that doesn't heal.
No.
That's not... that's not okay.
It could be argued that he's not really talking about the fact that Harry's parents are dead. He's talking about the fact that the Dursleys hate him, but also that is a whole other wound in and of itself. So
that is horrific. Imagine he's like, ha ha ha, your parents are dead. Also, your family that you live with don't love you. Also, our head teacher left you in an abusive household for 11 years, knowing full well they didn't love you. Ha ha, ha ha ha. That's not okay.
No, it's not okay.
More not okay would be the fact that Dumbledore left. You know what, we move on. We digress.
Please, could we? And honestly, how did Malfoy not realize that no one was going to think it was funny that Harry caught the snitch by swallowing it? That is a freaking cool move. And he stayed on his broomstick while it was being cursed with dark magic. So everyone's going to be super impressed. Come on, Draco. Yeah. Do better.
No one cares about you, Draco. You need to calm down.
Do better. I can't believe I'm telling a bully to do better, but honestly, it's so weak.
So I really enjoy that we then find out he didn't feel sorry for himself at all. This would probably be the best Christmas he'd ever had. Ron and his brothers were staying too, because Mr. and Mrs. Weasley were going to Romania to visit Charlie, which is cool.
It is.
And also, it's good because it means that Harry is not lonely at Christmas, because otherwise we'd just be sad.
Yeah. But I love this tradition of him and Ron together at Christmas at Hogwarts. I think that's really cute.
Yeah, really great.
And this is one of the first times, well, it's not the very first time, but this is really one of the first times since their rivalry was cemented that Malfoy and Ron kind of get into it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Also, okay, because I realize you're not supposed to. I really don't like Malfoy. Stop making fun of Ron for being poor.
I know.
I don't like it.
I hate it. I know, it's terrible. Draco is such a butt.
He is a butt. That's exactly what he is. So then Hermione is like, oh, I'm going home for Christmas, but I'm really excited that you guys are going to be here so that you can study and learn about Nicholas Flamel, find out who Nicholas Flamel is. And the boys are like, I don't like that.
I know. The boys are like, yeah, I'm not so sure that's going to happen.
We're too busy playing wizards chess. which is so aggressive.
It is. I know. Okay, first of all, I did want to point out before we move on, talking about Hermione and the boys and Nicholas Flamel, it's too bad that this movie was not set, or this book was not set like 10 or 15 years later, because Hermione...
You could Google it.
Yes, you could have just Googled it. Like, they're like, you could ask your parents if they know who Flamel is. It'd be safe to ask them. Very safe, as they're both dentists.
It's a really good line.
Yeah. I feel like Hermione, if Hermione had been able to use the internet, she would have been unstoppable.
For real.
And also the fact that Muggles use the internet and not wizards.
But we don't know that because we don't have a narrative of the Wizard Kingdom world in 2020. For all we know, 2020 wizards are like, oh, gonna get me a Google. Have a little Googs.
True. I bet as soon as the internet was invented, they were like, ooh, let's utilize this instead of having thousands upon thousands of books to sift through.
For real.
Can you imagine?
I love this. Once the holidays had started, Ron and Harry were having too good a time to think about Flamel. They had the dormitory to themselves and the common room was far emptier than usual, so they were able to get the good armchairs by the fire. Again, simple pleasures in life. Ooh, yay, good armchairs by a fire. I'd choose that over a family that loved me.
Oh my gosh. And then they sat by the hour eating anything they could spear on a toasting fork, bread, crumpets, marshmallows, and plotting ways of getting Malfoy expelled, which were fun to talk about even if they wouldn't work.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good...
It's just fun. Okay, so Christmas, they wake up. Now, I wanted to ask you, is this kind of British thing at all, or do you think this is just a detail that Rowling made up, that there's always a pile of presents at the foot of their bed?
No one does that. I think that's just...
I didn't think that was really a British thing, but you never know.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
That's just a detail that Rowling would have made up to make it easy for them to have all their presents right there in their beds. Like to have that, just to set that scene and make it easy.
Yeah, for real.
Okay.
Also, can we talk about a second very small parcel contained a note? We received your message and enclosed your Christmas present from Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia. Sellotape to the note was a 50p piece.
That honestly is far too kind of a note and good of a present for the way that Dursley's feel about him.
Also, can we talk about how, in the American version, does it say 50p piece?
I think it says 50-cent piece. I could be wrong. It might say pence.
I was going to say, I hope it says pence, because I know that Americans are American, but it's still set in England.
Yeah, I think it does say pence. I think it does, actually. Yeah.
I love, that's friendly, said Harry. Ron was fascinated by the 50p. Weird, he said. What a shape. This is money? You can have it, said Harry, laughing at how pleased Ron was. Hagrid and my aunt and uncle. So, who sent these? And then he realizes that he's got presents from Mrs.
Weasleys. I love so much that Molly Weasley knitted him a jumper. Oh my gosh. It's so sweet.
It's so cute.
It's so sweet. Every year she makes us a jumper, said Ron, unwrapping his own, and mine's always maroon.
That's really... Oh, okay, I love later on, so we go on. We'll come back to his present from Dumbledore in a moment. But and then when Fred and George arrive, and they're like, why aren't you wearing your sweater? And Ron is like, I hate maroon. I feel like there's a lot of emotions from an 11-year-old boy about a very inoffensive color.
I know.
It's a lot of feelings for maroon.
I know.
I myself do not have such complicated feelings about a color.
Do you not? You work in fashion. I'm pretty sure you definitely have extremely strong feelings about colors.
You know what? That's true, but only in a professional sense, not in a like I hate maroon. I mean, if Ron had said, I can't wear maroon because of my colour palette, I would have said, okay, cool, that's a reason that you would. Whereas I hate maroon, as though it had wronged him.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's go back really quick and talk about this present from Dumbledore.
Yes. Okay, I don't like this, I've decided.
I'm not sure how I feel about it either. Tell me why.
Something flew in silvery grey went slithering to the floor, where it lay in gleaming folds. Ron gasped. I've heard of those, he said in a voice, dropping the box of every flavoured beans he got from Hermione. If that's what I think it is, they're really rare and really valuable. What is it? Harry picked the shining silver off the floor. It was strange to the touch, like water woven into material. Beautiful description. Mm-hmm. It's an invisibility cloak, said Ron, a look of awe on his face. I'm sure it is. Try it on. So that's all fine. It's an invisibility cloak. Later in the series, we find out that the invisibility cloak is the invisibility cloak, mm-hmm. as in hewn from the cloak of death himself. So I don't buy that it's an invisibility cloak, or that Ron would have heard of it to know enough about it. Mm-hmm. So obviously he would have heard of the Deathly Hallows and he would have known about the story and like, fine, whatever. But in order to think that it's a thing that people could own.
Yeah. I mean, we do hear a couple of other times in the series, we do hear that characters own invisibility cloaks. Like Mad-Eye Moody owns a spare invisibility cloak. But this is like you're right, the invisibility cloak. And I do find it odd that Ron would have immediately known what it was.
Yeah. Well, and then 5 pages later, Dumbledore says, I don't need a cloak to be invisible. Mm-hmm. Well, then what's the point of the cloak?
I know. I don't quite get it.
I don't love it.
I love the invisibility cloak itself.
Yes,
and it comes in so handy for the rest of the series, and I think it doesn't feel lazy to me. It feels very, very handy.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And the note that comes with it: your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well. Mm-hmm. I love it. It's mystery. It's a mystery. Who gave it to him? Use it well for what?
Mm-hmm. And it was his father's, and it's just a little connection. Yeah. A little connection to his father. But we'll talk about that more in a second. Let's talk about this Christmas dinner real quick.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I want to eat this Christmas dinner.
100 fat roast turkeys. Okay. I have a bone to pick with this. Why are there 100 of them?
Apparently a lot of people stayed.
But like a turkey could feed like 8 people, and there's not 800 students at Hogwarts full time, let alone over Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
100 fat roast turkeys, mountains of roast and boiled potatoes, platters of fat chipolatas. I don't know what a chipolata is.
I think apparently it's a sausage. I was hoping you could explain that to me, but all I know is that it's a sausage.
Buttered peas, silver boats of thick, rich gravy and cranberry sauce, and stacks of wizard crackers every few feet along the table. These fantastic crackers were nothing like the feeble muggle ones the Dursleys usually bought, with their little plastic toys and their flimsy paper hats. Harry pulled a wizard cracker with Fred, and it didn't just bang, it went off with a blast like a cannon and engulfed them in a cloud of blue smoke. So I realize Americans don't have Christmas crackers, but...
Nope, I have no idea what Christmas crackers are. What are they?
So they're these little tubes of cardboard with a tiny little, I kid you not, like it's made of explosive thing, that when you pull it, it pops, and the little wrapper pops open, and they've got like toys and sweets inside. It's like a mini present type thing. Basically, they're absolute trash. I hate them. I think they're awful. And also, most crackers in England come with a little paper crown in them that everyone then wears around the table. And they all think that it's hilarious. Oh, look at us, we're wearing a tacky paper crown. It's trash. I hate it. It's one of the worst parts about English culture.
That's weird.
it's truly awful. And I've been told, so, like, honestly, when I'm with my in-laws at Christmas, or if we're ever like a Christmas party, everyone gets out the Christmas crackers, and then when they pop them, they all put these crowns on their head, and they look ridiculous. And I think to myself, I spent half an hour doing my hair this morning. I am not putting your tacky paper crown on my head.
That is so strange.
It's so weird. They're so tacky. It's awful. And for some reason, all British people agree that they're tacky and terrible and still love them.
That's so weird.
It's kind of like Monopoly, how everyone hates Monopoly, but people insist on playing.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, okay. Okay, I get that. Yeah.
And then only halfway through Monopoly do you remember that you hated it.
Yeah.
And the moment you're finished, you swear you'll never play it again. And then a day later, you're like, oh, let's play Monopoly.
Yeah, and then let's have all these other versions of Monopoly. Ugh, yeah.
Right. Anyway, so that's what our Christmas cracker is. Anyway,
Okay, now talk to me very quickly about Christmas pudding. It says, flaming Christmas puddings followed the turkey. Percy nearly broke his teeth on a silver sickle embedded in his slice. Okay, that sounds disgusting. If you can slice a pudding, gross. What is it?
So, Christmas pudding is, so don't forget that pudding in the United Kingdom is not a type of dessert. It is another word for dessert. But there is also a type of pudding like a type of dessert called a pudding, which is not the same. So in America, pudding is like almost like a custardy mousse. In England, a pudding is a domed sponge. So treacle pudding is a sweet sponge with treacle all over. Or Christmas pudding is a domed sponge with nuts and fruit and cinnamon and nutmeg. And when you cook it, and then you soak it in brandy, so that then when it comes to the table, you light it on fire, and the whole thing is on fire, and then you blow it out before you eat it.
You don't just eat the flames?
And then you blow it out, cut it, eat it. And traditionally, Christmas pudding always had a coin cooked into the middle of it, and whoever was fortunate enough to get the slice that had the coin in it had good Christmas cheer or good luck, and they had the coin. Obviously, that was before they thought about how dirty money is, and how if you were to put money in a cake, you'd like cash money is like the number one spreader of coronavirus. So,
Totally. Okay.
And also, so the fire burns the alcohol off, so even children eat brandy to Christmas pudding. And also, English people have less hang-ups about giving alcohol to their children. So.
That's true. That is very true. Is that as common as like Christmas crackers? Is that like a thing that you do?
It's very British. I would never do it. My family we've never done it, but that's obviously because I have an American mother, and as a family, our Christmases look much more American. So we never have Christmas crackers. We never have Christmas pudding. There are lots. Christmas cake is another English thing, which I hate.
They mention it.
It's the world's worst cake.
Is it like fruitcake?
Yeah.
Oh, so disgusting. It's like a brick.
It's super dense fruitcake with a really thick layer of flavorless, like fondant icing on the top.
Ugh.
It's gross. The only good thing about it is that in between the fondant icing and the cake is a layer of marzipan. But even then, the marzipan would have been mired by the fruitcake. My English grandmother loves to make fruitcake. She thinks that English, every Christmas, she's like, I made a fruitcake. And my granddad, before he died, loved Christmas cake.
Ew.
So she used to, it's really gross. She used to make it all the time. And obviously because he died just before Christmas this past year, I think that she baked and they enjoyed a Christmas cake in his memory. So that was quite nice. But at the same time, it's gross.
Yeah.
So granddad would always be like, hey, have some Christmas cake. And he would always be really upset if I said no, because he thought that it was like he would just get really upset that, do you not want any? Do you not like the Christmas cake that your grandmother has lovingly made for you? And I'm like, oh no, lovely granddad, it's not that. I just hate Christmas.
Did she ever make gluten-free Christmas cake?
Thank goodness no. So I never had to. Whew.
What a great excuse. Okay.
Anyway, so
well,
Christmas is over.
Yes. Okay. So it had been Harry's best Christmas day ever, yet something had been nagging at the back of his mind all day. Not until he climbed into bed was he free to think about it. The invisibility cloak and whoever had sent it.
Yes.
It had been his father's. This had been his father's. Use it well, the note had said. Ron grunted in his sleep. Should Harry wake him? Something held him back. His father's cloak. He felt that this time, the first time, he wanted to use it alone. He just wants to have a little moment with his dad. Oh, it's just so sweet. Harry's absolute love and admiration for his dad. Oh, I just love it so much.
Yeah, it's really, really lovely. And then, okay, so he's sneaking around. He's like, oh, let me have a little sneak, a sneaky sneak, sneak sneaks. He's running away. He's in the library, and then he comes across. It was a magnificent mirror, as high as the ceiling, with an ornate gold frame, standing on 2 broad feet. There was an inscription carved around the top: Erised stra eru oit ube kafru oit on wasi, which obviously,
when read backwards
is, what is it? I show not your face, but your heart's desire.
Mm-hmm.
His panic faded out. There was no sound, but just like Harry moved near the mirror, wanted to look at himself, but see no reflection again. He stepped in front of it. He had to clap his hands to his mouth to stop himself screaming. He whirled around. His heart was pounding far more furiously than when the book had screamed. He had seen not only himself in the mirror, but a whole crowd of people standing right beside him. But the room was empty, breathing very fast. He turned slowly back to the mirror. There he was, reflected in it, white and scared looking, and there, reflected behind him, were at least 10 others. Harry looked over his shoulder, but still no one was there. Blah, 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 blah. She was a very pretty woman. She had dark red hair, and her eyes are just like mine, Harry thought, edging a little closer to the glass. Bright green, exactly the same shape. But then he noticed that she was crying, smiling, but crying at the same time. The tall, thin, black-haired man standing next to her, blah, 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 his messy hair. He doesn't know that it's them because he's never seen his parents before.
Mm-hmm.
That's dark.
Yeah, I know. But he figures it out pretty quick. Mum, he whispered. Dad? They just looked at him, smiling. And slowly, Harry looked into the faces of the other people in the mirror and saw other pairs of green eyes like his, other noses like his, even a little old man who looked as though he had Harry's knobbly knees. Harry was looking at his family for the first time in his life.
Ugh. And then, but this is the only time we ever hear about Harry's family outside of his parents. Mm-hmm. We never hear about his grandparents. We never hear about aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever, other than Petunia. Mm-hmm. Really interesting. Anyway, so the Potter smiled away to Harry. It's all very adorable. I really, really like it. He goes to get Ron.
Oh, wait, okay. Wait. This last sentence before he gets Ron. He tore his eyes away from his mother's face, whispered, I'll come back, and hurried from the room.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. We've just heard about Harry's love for his dad with his cloak, but now I love that Rowling is very separate with Harry's love for his dad and his love for his mom. And it's just too much.
Really interesting. Then when he takes Ron to the mirror, this is what I like about this chapter. He takes Ron to the mirror, and Mirror's like, I'm wearing the badge like Bill used to, and I'm holding the house cup and the Quidditch cup. I'm Quidditch captain too. In the film, that reads as, oh God, Ron is so, like, that's ridiculous that the deepest desire of Ron's heart is to be head boy and win the house cup. That's so, like, ugh. In the movie, that doesn't land very well. However, in the book, when he goes back and Dumbledore is there, mm-hmm. So let me explain. The happiest man on earth would be able to use the mirror of Erised like a normal mirror. That is, he would look into it and see himself exactly as he is. Does that help? Harry thought. Then he said, it shows us what we want, whatever we want. Yes and no, said Dumbledore quietly. It shows us nothing more or less than the deepest, most desperate desire of our hearts. You, who have never known your family, see them standing around you. Ronald Weasley, who has always been overshadowed by his brothers, sees himself standing alone, the best of all of them. That is not a shallow desire. That is a boy who feels overshadowed and not up to scratch with his family. And so in the book, that's a really powerful moment where you realize, you realize this thing about Ron, whereas in the film, you lose that completely.
Yeah.
However, the mirror will give us neither knowledge or truth. Men have wasted away before it, entranced by what they have seen, or been driven mad, not knowing if what it shows is real or even possible. The mirror will be moved to a new home tomorrow, Harry, and I ask you not to go looking for it again. If you ever do run across it, you will now be prepared. It does not do to dwell on dreams, Harry, and forget to live. Remember that. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Oh my
That
goodness.
line is so incredible, so deep, so thought-provoking.
It's really,
And then, okay, I'm gonna read this last kind of paragraph exchange, whatever. Professor Dumbledore, what do you see when you look in the mirror? I see myself holding a pair of thick woolen socks. Harry stared. One can never have enough socks, said Dumbledore. Another Christmas has come and gone, and I didn't get a single pair. People will insist on giving me books. It was only when he was back in bed that it struck Harry that Dumbledore might not have been quite truthful. But then, he thought, as he shoved Scabbers off his pillow, it had been quite a personal question.
Yeah.
What an incredible chapter.
Yeah, it's a really, really good chapter and a really good moment as well.
Yes.
And I think the introduction of the Mirror of Erised is so important because it's a nice way for her to narratively include things about Harry's character and Ron's character and even Dumbledore's character that would otherwise be difficult to explain in a book that's focused on children. So it would be hard for her to say, Harry lay awake at night desperately thinking about how he wished his parents were there and blah, 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 blah. And he wondered if maybe Ron, who was always overshadowed by it wouldn't work. Whereas having the mirror is a very clever narrative device. And it's also just beautiful.
It really is. Well, that is chapter 12. Join us next time for chapter 13, which is called Nicholas Flamel. So I guess we're about to find out who he is.
Or what it is, what kind of dessert a Flamel is.
Oh, true. Maybe hopefully it's better than Christmas cake.
I just thought, when Dumbledore stares into the mirror of Erised, do you reckon he stares at himself not leaving Harry in an abusive household for 11 years? Do you think that's what he sees when he looks in the mirror?
Who can say? Maybe he sees himself leaving lots of other children in abusive households.
It is his favorite pastime.
Oh my gosh. All right.
It's his baseball. It's his national pastime. He's like, oh my goodness, it's a Thursday. It's a great day to leave a child in an abusive home.
Oh my goodness. Maybe one day we will not have that in a podcast at all. That's the dream.
Nope. Every episode. Sorry about it.
All right. Bye.
All right.